do you really enjoy what you think you enjoy? Every time you open your phone and scroll without thinking. Every time you watch another clip, you'll forget in seconds. Every time you eat without hunger, talk without listening, laugh without joy. Who is enjoying? You, or the system that trained you to keep reaching for the next fix? Here's the truth. You've been programmed to chase pleasure, but never to catch it. And you didn't even notice when it happened. We live in an era where every pleasure is one tap away, but it's never enough. Aldous Huxley warned us nearly a century ago. The future wouldn't be ruled by fear, but by distraction. Not by oppression, but by endless entertainment. A world where no one bans books because no one cares to read them. A world where truth isn't hidden. It's buried under an avalanche of noise. A world where people no longer need to be controlled because they're too addicted to controlling themselves with instant gratification. And here you are, in that world, the world where satisfaction is instant, but emptiness grows faster. The world where pleasure is no longer a reward, but a drug. Where every choice you make was designed by someone else to keep you needing more. Look around you, every sound, every color, every notification, a hook. Every distraction, a tiny chain you don't see, because it doesn't feel heavy. This is the new dictatorship. They don't punish you, they entertain you. They don't silence you, they flood you with voices until you can't hear your own. They don't take away your choices. They give you so many that you can't move. And so people get lost in pleasures that fade faster than they arrive, while the things that truly matter slip away in silence. You believe you are free because you can choose. Choose what to watch, choose what to eat, choose who to follow. But what is freedom when every choice has been placed in front of you by someone else? What is freedom when your preferences are the result of invisible suggestions, repeated so often that they feel like your own thoughts? Aldous Huxley saw this coming. He understood that control would not need chains or guards. It would come in the form of comfort. It would look like choice. It would feel like freedom. The greatest trick of modern pleasure is that it hides its cost. Every second you spend chasing it, you lose something you never notice: the ability to sit still with yourself, the ability to wait for something worth waiting for, the ability to want deeply, without demanding the feeling right now. Cheap pleasure doesn't just waste your time. It rewires your brain so that time itself feels different. A 5-second clip replaces the patience for a 2-hour film. An instant message replaces the effort of a deep conversation. A shortcut replaces the satisfaction of the journey. This is why modern pleasure is dangerous, not because it is pleasure, but because it is constant. In Huxley's vision, society didn't collapse under cruelty. It dissolved under comfort. No one rebelled because no one felt the need. Why fight for truth when lies are more entertaining? Why seek meaning when distraction is easier to find? Look at your own life. When was the last time you worked for something without an immediate reward? When was the last time you allowed yourself to be bored? Boredom, the space where creativity is born, has been replaced by endless noise. Noise that keeps you comfortable, but empty. The system doesn't take your freedom by force. It sells you comfort until you forget what freedom felt like. It gives you so much ease that the idea of effort feels wrong. It makes the hard path seem unnecessary, even when it's the only path that leads somewhere real. This is the hidden price of pleasure. It trades your potential for your passivity. It trades your hunger for your numbness. And you pay it, not in money, but in years of your life that you will never get back. Pleasure isn't the enemy. The danger is how easily you can get it. When you can have something instantly, you never have to develop the strength to earn it. When you never have to wait, you never have to grow. And without growth, you weakened quietly, invisibly, until you can't even remember what strength felt like. Huxley's world is here, not because we were forced into it, but because we walked in willingly. We traded the weight of responsibility for the lightness of distraction. We traded the struggle of purpose for the ease of endless entertainment. Look at the way we consume now. Food is no longer about nourishment. It's dopamine delivered through sugar, salt, and fat. Social media is not connection. It's tiny sparks of validation, repeated until they burn out your sense of self. Information is not learning. It's a stream of fragmented facts that numb you into thinking you know something, while you've forgotten how to think at all. Every hit of cheap pleasure comes with a hidden effect. It lowers your tolerance for reality. Reality is slower. It's harder. It's quieter. It demands patience, discipline, and discomfort. But the more you live in the quick-hit world, the more the real world feels unbearable. And so, you retreat further into the artificial one, where nothing challenges you, where nothing asks for more than a swipe, a click, a tap, where you never risk failure, and therefore never feel real success. This is the soft erosion of the human spirit that Huxley feared, not the iron fist of a dictator, but the gentle, constant pressure of comfort that makes rebellion unnecessary. Why rise up when you can simply tune out? Why change the world when the world on your screen already feels perfect? Here's the cruel part. Every time you choose the easy pleasure, you make the next hard thing even harder. Your willpower shrinks, your patience fades, your hunger for challenge disappears. In the end, you don't stop dreaming because you lost hope. You stop dreaming because cheap pleasure has tricked you into thinking you've already arrived. You stop searching because the illusion of enough is everywhere. The shows, the games, the constant stream of noise and light. And by the time you notice the emptiness underneath it all, you've already lost yours. Not in pain, not in struggle, but in comfort. The more you flood your life with pleasure, the less any of it means. It's not the absence of pleasure that kills us, it's the overdose. When you can have music playing at all times, silence becomes unbearable. When you can have thousands of images at your fingertips, beauty becomes forgettable. When you can watch endless stories unfold on a screen, your own life feels too slow to matter. Huxley understood that meaning is not born from having more. Meaning is born from the gaps, the pauses, the space between moments. It's in the hunger before the meal, the longing before the kiss, the effort before the reward. But constant pleasure burns those gaps away. It leaves no space for longing, no space for hunger, no space for absence. And without absence, presence loses its value. Think of it like a fire. A small, contained flame can warm you. But if the flame rages without limit, it consumes everything, even the home it was meant to heat. Cheap pleasure works the same way. At first, it feels like a gift. Soon, it burns through the very things that gave your life structure. Look closely, and you'll see it everywhere. Relationships that fall apart because they are no longer exciting every second. Hobbies abandoned because they take too long to master. Books left unread because they require more effort than a short video. Dreams abandoned because the road to them is not instantly rewarding. This is why modern life feels empty, even when it's full. Full of noise, full of light, full of stimulation, but empty of depth. Pleasure used to be a reward for endurance. Now it's the default. And when pleasure is the default, nothing feels special. Nothing feels worth fighting for. You're left chasing more and more, just to feel less and less. And here is the most dangerous part. When meaning disappears, people become easy to control. A life without meaning is a life that will grab onto anything that distracts from the emptiness. And the system knows this. It feeds you what you crave, until craving is the only thing you know. In the end, you aren't living for something. You're living for the next hit, the next laugh, the next bite, the next scroll. And all the while, the real pleasures, the ones that require effort, sacrifice, and time, fade quietly into the background, not because they're gone, but because you've lost the ability to notice them. Control doesn't always look like force. It can look like comfort. It can feel like convenience. In Huxley's vision, people weren't beaten into submission, they were lulled into it. They didn't fight for freedom because they didn't feel they'd lost it. The walls of the prison were invisible because the prison was built from pleasure. And here's the thing, when you control what people crave, you control what they do. Not by telling them you must, but by making them believe I want to. Look at the way the system feeds you. Algorithms don't just guess your desires, they shape them. They learn your weaknesses, your patterns, your impulses, and feed them back to you until you mistake manipulation for choice. Every tap, every scroll, every purchase. It's not just consumption, it's data. And that data is used to keep you exactly where they want you. Comfortable, distracted, dependent. Because a distracted person doesn't rebel. A distracted person doesn't demand change. A distracted person doesn't even look up long enough to realize they're being led. Think about it. Why would a system waste energy controlling people through fear? When pleasure is faster, cheaper, and more effective. Fear makes people restless. Pleasure makes them compliant. Fear eventually triggers resistance. Pleasure erases the desire for resistance entirely. And here's the quiet truth. Every time you give in to the easy pleasure, you reinforce the bars of your own cage. You make it easier for the system to predict you, to guide you, to keep you docile. And it works, not because pleasure is bad, but because we are wired to seek it. The problem is that, in the modern world, the supply is infinite. There is no natural stopping point, no scarcity to remind you to use it wisely. You can scroll until your eyes ache, eat until you can't move, watch until the sun comes up, and still want more. That's the secret of the comfort cage. It never feels like a cage. It feels like home. You don't try to leave because you think you're already free. And by the time you realize you've been trapped, the doors don't need to be locked. You've lost the will to walk out. The danger isn't that pleasure will kill you quickly. It's that it will keep you alive just enough to stop you from ever truly living. This is how it works. First, it distracts you. Then, it dulls you. Then, it replaces everything that once gave you purpose. At some point, without even noticing, your life stops being something you create and becomes something you consume. You stop building. You stop exploring. You stop striving. Not because you've lost the ability, but because the system has convinced you there's no reason to. Cheap pleasure tells you you have everything you need. And you believe it, even as your mind grows weaker, even as your relationships fade, even as your dreams dry up in the corner of your life like plants you forgot to water. This is the slow death Huxley warned about, not the violent kind that comes from war or famine, but the quiet one that comes from comfort without meaning. It's not the body that collapses first, it's the will to struggle, the will to aim higher than the next small thrill, the will to choose the hard thing because it's worth it. And the moment that will is gone, you can live decades without ever truly being alive. Decades where every day feels full but somehow hollow. Decades where the highlights of your life are measured in views, likes, deliveries, and notifications. That's the real cost, not just the time lost, but the self lost. The version of you that might have been, the one who could have created something lasting, loved something deeply, fought for something greater, replaced by someone who only knows how to consume. And when you finally look back, the question will hit you harder than any regret. Was I ever in control? Or was I just another moving part in a machine designed to keep me entertained until I disappeared? Because here's the truth no one wants to admit. Most people will never break free from it. Not because they can't, but because they don't want to. And that's how the system wins. not by stopping you, but by making sure you never start. If Huxley was right, the real enemy isn't oppression, it's sedation. The slow, sweet drift into a life where nothing hurts, but nothing matters. A life where the greatest tragedy is not that you were chained, but that you never even looked for the door. And maybe you think you can balance it, that you can take the pleasure without losing yourself. But every hit, every scroll, every shortcut, it all leaves a mark, small, invisible, permanent, until one day you wake up and realize you can't go more than a few minutes without reaching for a fix. Not because you need it, but because you no longer remember who you are without it. And here's the part you're not supposed to think about. If the system can keep you happy enough to never question it, what happens to the part of you that still knows something is wrong? Maybe it's already gone, or maybe, just maybe, it's still there, watching, and waiting for you to notice.